immediate reaction to the news when you saw it this morning?
I think just an exhale. Every morning has been like rushing to the phone, seeing what's going on, checking in with people. I'm just excited that we can move on to the next steps. I'm glad that they got this done for the players, for the fans, for everyone involved, and we can keep moving on with the 30th anniversary season that should have all the confetti, right?
Oh, 1000%. It deserves a parade in the streets. It deserves confetti. Everybody, I did read in an Annie Costable's article that they shared a champagne cheers at about 3 o'clock in the morning. I think we all deserve a little bit of a champagne cheers after what this process has looked like. But Cass, we do know as of today, since the CBA has been agreed to, at least for right now, there is not expected to be any sort of truncating of the season. The season will go off on May 8th as planned. Training camp should go off as planned. Expansion drafts and the collegiate draft should go as planned. So now that we know that the season, at least as of today, should go off as planned, what is the biggest hurdle that the WNBA has avoided in getting this agreement done this morning?
I mean, the big one is delaying things, right? Like not having a season, starting to cancel things. I know when we had talked earlier in the week, preseason has become a very big deal. Like fans go to games, they buy out a lot of these tickets, they want to watch it on TV, it's broadcast now. The Fever and the Liberty are playing in one of those preseason games. You don't want to have to cancel that if you're the Fever or the Liberty or you're the league kind of building off all of this momentum. It is going to be a very tight window to get all of this done. And I think that's the stressful thing about this, but they always knew that that was going to be the case. I think if you're the league and the players right now, you're thinking, all right, well, everything that has been planned for this year will continue. And that is a very good thing.
It almost feels like a mad dash too, right, Cass? Because now, even though nothing's going to be disrupted, there are over 100 free agents. There's an expansion draft. Like the amount of work that the WNBA has to get done, this almost feels like the easiest piece because there is so much chaos left in front, especially with expansion. I can't stress this enough. I mean, there are 2 new teams coming to this league. How does all of this get impacted?
Well, the timeline that they've kind of set out, and a lot of people had acquired in the past few weeks, will start on April 1st, between the 1st and the 6th, an expansion draft. That's 2 weeks from now. We don't know what that looks like. That's part of the CBA that they negotiated. So we're still waiting to figure that out. Immediately afterward, you send out qualifying offers to free agents. As you said, every single veteran is a free agent with the exception of Lexi Brown and Kalani Brown. That is a lot of top-end talent. And while many of them are expected to stay with their teams, they still have to negotiate numbers, right? And they have to negotiate numbers under this new salary cap that they just agreed to, that general managers and front offices are just now probably learning about, if they are learning about it at 9 a.m. Eastern. Immediately after that, you have the signing period that's going to cover the collegiate draft on April 13th, and then training camps the day after the signing period ends. Like, you're right, mad dash.
Truly a mad dash. And I was doing a mad dash this morning to figure out what the numbers were and what the terms that were agreed upon. And we don't have exact concrete numbers. We don't have a full view of exactly what this new CBA looks like, but some numbers that have been reported. The salary cap is reportedly supposed to jump from $1.5 million to 6.2. The Supermax jumps from $250,000 to 1.3. The average player salary expected to jump from $120,000 to $570,000. Those are massive increases. Your initial reaction when you saw those increases in salary and salary cap?
Yeah, these were the most recent numbers that we have, so they could be different. The salary cap has kind of incrementally moved a little bit in each WNBA offer, but this is in line with what we've been seeing for many, many years. The WNBA is on the upward trajectory, and Cathy Engelbert has been very open that once they sign that media rights deal, that's what gets them the money. I think maybe lost in all of this right now, because CBA has been contentious and there has been kind of infighting and fighting between the sides, is that we will see the first $1 million women's basketball player in the WNBA in terms of salary, not endorsements, in terms of salary. And that is a pretty big deal for a league that started way back in 1996 out of the Olympics. And as players talked about to reporters on site, this is, you're going to feel the leveling up as a player. Like, you are a professional athlete. And I think the salary numbers very much speak to that.
Guys, let's just have a real moment here, though. Think about how difficult this is. Like, just taking all of our fandom and reporting heads off for a second. You've got all of these players that now have to go to the market table and try and figure out what their market is in an elevated salary cap with elevated, like, all of these things as you guys are talking about. I just keep thinking about what's it like for all of these free agents that are now going to come to the table and say, well, there's more money to spend, so I'm worth more money. But how much more money? Every team is now going to have to suddenly build a new roster with an understanding. Not every player is going to be $1 million player either. So this becomes something that I got to feel like agents are going to get really contentious. Trying to figure out where some of these free agents land is going to be really contentious, just because establishing value. If we're talking about a company that makes widgets, if suddenly the entire world knows that company makes 10 times more money, everybody's going to go to it and say, hey, we want more money. This feels like the middle class of the WNBA right now is going to have a really tough time trying to figure out who's in the middle class and where their value falls.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a huge conversation for years. I'll be interested to see the intricacies of the salary numbers. Are there differences? Are there other levels to hit? I do think, though, that in terms of this compared to the previous one, at least from the numbers that we see, one of the things is that it just seems like the percentages have increased proportionally to what they were. Now, the problem in the last one was, I think salaries went up like 80% and the salary cap went up 30. So maybe there are stipulations that protect the middle class, because I know that was important, especially to Alicia Clark, who spoke about that overnight.
And look, we should be celebrating this. This is a very exciting day for the league, for the players, for the future of the sport of women's basketball. But of course, there are always trickle-down effects or domino effects from things like this. So let's say the average salary is hovering right around $500,000, give or take. What does this do for off-season leagues that players went to for supplemental income? So Unrivaled, Project B, AU, playing overseas. What does that mean for those leagues if your average player doesn't necessarily need supplemental income?
So there are a lot of players who will continue to play overseas or in these other leagues. I think one of the big things is the WNBA season is still very short. You're looking at May to mid-October, say. That's a long off season. They want to get in work elsewhere. So I think for now, you're not going to see a ton of pullback, but you're right. There are players who are going to say, well, if I'm now making 500,000 and I used to make 70,000, do I really need to do this? I can pay a trainer and work out with them. Now, the other aspect of this is, to my knowledge, and we don't have the CBA in our hands yet, prioritization has not been a sticking point. And that's that rule that says, as of, a couple of years ago, you had to report on time to training camp. In the future, I am sure the owners are going to try and make it so that players cannot play in other leagues at all. But for right now, it seems like while some players may decide no longer to do those off-season things, I don't think it will have as big of an effect as it will the next time we're negotiating a CBA, which I don't even want to talk about right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, my God, I hope we got a long. I can't handle the next one. Cass, we talked when we were talking yesterday about sort of the cloud over the women's college athletes right now, trying to figure out where they're going to go. For all of the players for expansion, 2 new teams coming in now, expansion draft, as you mentioned, will be a few weeks away at this point. Do we anticipate that most of the players that are going to start filling those roster spots across this league are players that are currently long out of college and players that have been waiting for their opportunity to get into the W, or do we anticipate that a lot of those roster spots are going to come from college kids?
I think it's a really good question. I think what we've seen in the past couple of years is a lot of international talent either coming back to the WNBA or entering the WNBA because of this worldwide scouting. I know when Caroline and I spoke with Sandy Brondello way back in December, she was talking about kind of filling her expansion team in Toronto with free agents. And now she's will become a legendary coach. I think maybe already is to a lot of people, has won championships, but she can have those relationships with free agents. In terms of collegiate players, though, there are more spots and there are more positions for them now that expansion keeps happening. So I think when we're looking forward towards the draft, you're going to see more of those names be on the first round, stick on rosters. And I hope, and the players have talked a lot about this, be able to work their way onto a roster. The other aspect of that is, for the first time, if it is codified in this CBA, they're talking about adding 2 developmental players per roster. I think that will be a good spot for collegiate players, maybe more so than international players.
And we were just talking a couple days ago about how maybe insecure some college players might feel about what the future of the WNBA looks like, what their future looks like. Now they're just swimming in cash. They're thinking, woohoo, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. You know, I've all the questions that I had are answered. The only question that remains is, where am I going to be playing next year? Because it's not as simple as to, okay, we agreed to a CPA, we don't snap our fingers and now all of a sudden it's, you know, written in stone and it's enacted into WNBA law. So what comes next? Now that we have an agreement, what now?
The lawyers and the sides are going to come to very specific terms. They're going to go over all of this paperwork. It's going to go to the players and the WNBA Board of Governors for final ratification. When that happens, I would assume the CBA will then be shared in full and we can continue to move on with the off season. I think I was thinking about this morning. I also think what's really interesting about this round versus the past round is that the last time they did this, they could kind of keep a lid on it a little bit and go on Good Morning America and announce it together. The landscape and the coverage of the WNBA is so different now that they announced that they had come to terms, and we will slowly start to see things as they come to ratify it.
How important was it in your mind to get it done in a way that didn't cause the cancellation of the opening weekend of games?
I personally feel like it was massive. I think any time, no matter what kind of goodwill you have with fans, if you are missing out on games and games that people have come to love, right? Like, they adore the WNBA, they take their families. These are sellouts now. These are not little rinky dink, you know, small town things. Like, this is a big deal. Anytime you miss that, it impacts fans and how they feel about your league and what they will do with their money going forward. And we all know that for a lot of people, money is really tight. I think they absolutely had to avoid missing games, preseason games included. And so I'm glad for their sake that they did.